Good morning and welcome to the April garden tour. I live just outside of Toronto in a Zone 5 USDA garden zones or a Zone 6A 6B in Canada using our garden zones. Today is a beautiful day here in the garden. It has finally started to come alive. It's actually May 2nd, but I'm going to call this the April garden tour because nothing has really changed in the last few days. But in the next week, things are going to change. This weekend is going to be hot. It's going to go up to 22 degrees, and it's been cold, like 2 degrees almost every day, and getting highs of 7. So nothing has really changed that much in the garden in the last week, but in the last 24 hours, things have started to change. So I want to capture this very quickly so you can see what the garden looks like just before everything changes and becomes a beautiful, stunning garden in the next couple of weeks. I also want to talk to you about some of the things that we have to do to get ready for the garden season, because it's always a lot of steps for us to get the garden looking great. So let me just start off with some of the things we're about to do. So one of the things that you may have seen is that all of my winter urns are still filled with the winter pine boughs and the cedar, and they look great. It's really a matter of opinion if they're bothering you, but I love seeing them filled with stuff all season long, and it's such a good investment when you make winter urns. I think I probably spent around 150 Canadian to do all these urns, and as I walk through the yard you will see them. I repurpose as much of the items as I can every year, like the bulbs and any of the silks and stuff. I reuse all of that and just buy new fresh greenery or cut stuff from the yard every year. So that's one of the first things that we're going to be doing today. I'm also going to be planting all of these beautiful pansies in all of the urns, just to give it a little bit of a spring joyous look. Certainly need that right now. The next thing on the list is doing a washing of the deck. I'm going to take the power washer, and you can see right around all of the arrangements that we had last year. They are very, very dirty. It's just from all of the watering and the actual debris from those beautiful Vista bubblegum petunias that fell down, and then all around the actual place where our fountain sits, it's also really dirty. So we're going to give this a big scrub. The way I do that is I just remove the furniture off of here and we get to it. I don't remove the herb tower that you can see over here that looks like a little Christmas tree right over there, mainly because one of its legs has become very fragile, so I have to be careful that I don't destroy the whole thing. You may have noticed these cute little tables here. They go extremely well with the color of our iron table and chairs. I painted the iron table and chairs, and these, my girlfriend called me up and said, "Hey, I saw the cutest little tables in the garbage. You may want to go pick them up." So I stopped by the person's house, asked if it was okay if I took them. She said, "Take them. They're just from IKEA," and she was using them as bedside tables, and they're perfect for the deck here. I love the way that I can have now a little place that I can put some drinks while we're sitting here at the deck. We're also trying to consider how we manage having any friends over this summer. What I like about this arrangement, instead of having the table in the middle, which we may still do, this allows us to have people to have their zones of sitting up here. We can push the table and chairs away from each other so that we can have visits with other households, but we also maintain our distance from each other, bringing our own cups and whatever we're going to drink, and just sort of find ways to connect in a meaningful way, but pushing the tables and chairs 10 feet away so that we can just have those moments of togetherness. So you can see all the winter urns are still filled, and as I said, that is one of the tasks to do today. It does give lots of color, and it's a lot more interesting than looking at a bunch of empty containers for the entire winter. I'll have to adjust these lights, and if you recall, last year we had some beautiful Gara in these arrangements right in front of you, and this year I actually, for the winter, I put some obelisks in there and wrapped lights around them. Now I have managed to get some Gara this year to put in there again, so I just have to decide whether I'm going to leave the obelisk there or if I will take that out. Over on the other side, You can see the blue containers that were filled with the beautiful lavender that was just stunning as a standard. I did try to overwinter them and did not have any success, sadly. Even more sad because this year you cannot get them here in Canada. We are not importing any plants other than food related items over the border. So I won't be able to get those beautiful standards because we don't grow them up here. In the garden, the hosta has all started to push through. We've got some really pointy ends, which is really important because I am going to be supplementing the soil in some places, and I'm also going to be adding some extra mulch. So this is the ideal weekend, especially knowing that tomorrow is going to be 22. I've got to get on top of that before everything opens and creates a much more significant effort for myself. The dogwood here doesn't have a lot of signs of life, and I'm hoping that that is just because it's been so cold and that it's going to come to life soon. We had a very quick frost and winter abrupt seasonal change, and all of the leaves were stuck on many of the trees all winter long. So I'm really hoping that being these only in their second year that didn't kill it. When you look at the beautiful pyramidal or cascading redwood, you can see that it has lovely little blooms that are all getting ready. This dogwood here, the one that blooms with flowers first, is stunning, and it has lots of new signs of life, so I'm really excited to see what it's going to look like. Also, when I look down here at the incredible hydrangeas, they also have lots of signs of life. I have come out here and done a little trimming on them just to encourage lots of beautiful new growth. So I'm excited to see how well they're all coming back. When I was selecting the plants for this part of the new garden where our old English walnut tree was, one of the plants I had selected for its winter beauty and early spring beauty was this beautiful eastern globe cedar. This particular one has these beautiful bright yellow tips on it. It does green out by the end of the season. But I love how they come into themselves every spring. I believe it's called an Eastern Globe cedar. But you can see that there's one right behind it. It just gets a little more shade in the afternoon, so it is not quite as yellow. And this one over here is not as yellow either. So it really is about how much sun it gets for it to perform, but I still love how beautiful they look. The Japanese ivory silk lilac has started to fill out, and it has grown a lot, and it's a great height to this tree. It's going to be about 20 feet, and that's perfect because it will give us privacy for the house that is being torn down behind us. And they did a lot of tree cutting last year, so I'm very grateful that we have this tree right there that's going to start to fill in some of the gaps that we can now see. What you're seeing in front of you is some beautiful euphorbia. This euphorbia does spread, so if you don't like spreading things, I wouldn't recommend it, but I love the way that it just sort of cascades outside of the garden, mixes with those lamb's ears in the gray, and there's another beautiful euphorbia there in the back that's very purple. I love the look of euphorbia in the springtime just because of the variety of the color that it provides. It just sort of is an awakening to the garden. Also in the garden here, let me just move this down for you. You can see there's some more of that euphorbia, and all right down here is sweet woodruff that's also spread. Now here by the feature pot, I have a lavender, and I did a trimming and I may have trimmed it a little too tight, but you can see some of them are doing really well and other ones not so well. So I'm very curious to see what's going to happen. We have all the hostas starting to come back, and I will be doing a trimming on my boxwoods here once I know that it's going to stay warm enough. If you trim your boxwoods too early in the season and it gets cold, you're going to get a little bit of like a frost burning on all of your new growth. So it's you have to really think about the weather. By the mid-May, I can come in here in my zone and do some cutting. Some of you may remember that last year we had all sorts of really pretty peonies and violas in some of the arrangements. Some of them actually went to seed, and look at that. I mean, it's not a weed, is it? If it's beautiful and it has a flower that you like. I'm thinking what I may just do is some of these little volunteers here in this stony part of the garden, I may just dig them up and put them in pots. Last year I used all of these flowers. I sunk them directly into ice cubes, and because violas are edible, it's a beautiful way to add a lovely little touch to any kind of drink. This beautiful cup and saucer magnolia has not yet fully bloomed, but there are several that in the next couple of days are going to burst out of their little jackets and just grace us with a stunning look. Let me see if I can back up so you can see it. So you can sort of get a sense of what it looks like. It is going to be beautiful, and once I remove these red sticks out of that arrangement, it'll actually start to pop a little bit more. So I'll try to connect back and you'll definitely see what this tree looks like in full, because I'll do a tour in a couple weeks here in May, because the garden evolves so much and so quickly. For all the gardens that I have here, one of the things I am terrible at is growing grass. But look at our grass right now. It is just filled with these beautiful little violets. They're all throughout the whole lawn. Maybe that's why we have crappy grass, because we have other little volunteers in there. But I do like it. And then right in front of it is all of this vinca or periwinkle, and it's all in bloom right now, just really adding to the beautiful arrangements that are sitting here in early spring. Right behind it is a scented geranium. It is a great feature plant for growing under trees because it doesn't root deeply, so it can also survive with very little water. And you can see here that the horse chestnuts are just about to come out, and so that scented geranium is a really nice understory plant for us, because it is one of the few things that will grow underneath these very densely shaded areas from the horse chestnut. Here's two more arrangements. I've been able to get some Thumbergina, which is black-eyed Susan vine, to try in this area again. I've also picked up some new obelisks. These ones are very, very tall, so I'm very interested to see how they're going to work out in this new area. The new area that we have here in the garden is a vegetable patch. As you know, I do like the gardens to have a very formal look, so when I was creating our victory garden, we created one that was still formal looking. I am not going to profess to being a very good vegetable grower, partially because we grow all the vegetables in pots and it never seems to get enough sun. So I'm hoping that once we're here doing raised beds and in a much sunnier location, I start to have more success. I will be doing a combination of transplanted vegetables that I have bought from my favorite local garden store and ones that I'm growing from seeds. The seed ones I've yet to start, which I know most of you are saying, what? That's way too late. I'm okay with that. I'm trying to do succession planting, and this allows me to have less clutter in my house, but also have plants that I've bought from my local garden company. And the nursery that I go to, it's her first year of evolving her business from a total paper-based business to a digital store. So it's been a big transformation for her. So I really want to make sure that I'm supporting her, and I've helped her out with a bit of website testing and just making sure that she knows that there are ways that her customers love her. So I'm very excited to be able to receive a bunch of plants today, vegetables and flowers and stuff that we're going to be showcasing here in the yard, so you can have more garden tours throughout the summer. Another area that I will be improving is this here sitting area. Some of you may know that last year we had some beautiful hanging white balls from there. I'd like to do that again, and I will probably replace these chairs with something that is safe. Right now, I wouldn't advise anybody sitting on these chairs. They are just become too fragile and brittle, so we're looking at getting the same white ones that we have on the deck. Particularly because as you're working here in the garden, you definitely want a nice place to sit. And while you may have seen this other sitting arrangement over here and say, well, why wouldn't you just sit there? We get pretty dirty, and I try to keep the cushions on that arrangement nice and clean. So sitting here on a white solid plastic chair allows us to sit down if we're still a little bit grubby. The other thing I will be working on is removing a lot of this, I think it's a euonymus that is spread all throughout the ground here. Most of it has actually created roots where it touches the ground, so I'll have a ton of new trees or bushes, but I don't like the way that it has stopped people from being able to walk into the back here, so I will be cleaning up that area as well. Some of you may recall that last year this is a new enhanced part of the garden. We put tiger lilies that have come in really nice, or day lilies that have come in really nicely. I also put in a bunch of irises, and I put in a bunch of peonies, and you can see that the peonies are so much happier. They were over in this corner over there, and they had been there for about 5 years, never did much, never grew, never bloomed. So just changing their location can sometimes make all the difference to the performance of a plant. Now here's an interesting little volunteer. I do believe that this is a very big dandelion, and you can eat dandelion. They make lovely salads. So if I'm going to harvest that for a salad, I'm going to need to do that right away. I want to just make sure 100% it's a dandelion, so I'm just waiting for one of the flowers to pop up before I go and eat that. I have lots of dandelions in the yard, but if I'm going to be weeding that one in particular, I might as well eat it and enjoy it. Another project that we're going to be working on this year is changing up this part of the yard. You can see that I have some beautiful boxwoods. They all need to be trimmed. They're all messy and out of control, so we're going to give them a nice trim. We're going to remove all of these bricks as well as the loose stones that are in here. I'm going to do a major weeding job, remove the garbage, and also remove that old urn. And we're going to actually fill it up, and we're going to try to level this thing out a little bit more. These, I think they're called blue eyes or blue. It was supposed to be a dwarf variety of blue spruce, but these have grown quite tall now. And now the bottoms are exposed. And I'm not really loving the look of it, but I love the top, but not the bottom. So I figure this is a great opportunity for me to come in, level up this bottom piece, and figure out how we want to do it. And once I come in here, you'll be able to see these purple sand cherries that are just above the actual boxwoods, and there are a bunch of spirea all along the bottom there, so everything will just look a little nicer, and as you sit over on the deck you'll be able to see it. What I love about this time of year is when everything starts to sort of pop up again. Here's some more euphorbia, a different kind of color, and my rhubarb patch. It's all coming back nice and strong. Under the magnolia are more peonies, so I'm excited to see what's going to happen with them. This one is white and the other are all pink, and last year they bloomed after not blooming for a couple of years, so they're finally getting more sun now that the big walnut tree is gone. Last year I put some of the daylilies into these containers here, and they overwintered really nicely, which I was really surprised. But you can see that one doesn't get a lot of sun, and this one is getting more sun. And look how much more advanced it is. So I might just switch them up so that they sort of are equal in their size. All of the hostas in this area are starting to come back, and I've done a little bit of cleanup in here. And then over here I have hostas that I also put into this container. Oops, sorry about that. Hostas that I put into that container, and they're all coming back as well. So I'm always interested in little changes that we do in the garden every year to sort of see how things can perform. So happy to see that you can put hostas in a pot and have them return. So right in front of you is a Saskatoon berry or service berry, and it is about to bloom. Last year we did get berries on it, and I had been told at the garden center that if you did not have two, you would not get any kind of berries on it. So there must be another one close by, because I was delighted to have the berries. And then over here you can see the little white flowers on this tree here. believe it is a hawthorn, native to Ontario, and it just has grown as a volunteer, but is quite nice. Here's the garden views from this angle. Looking beautiful and just about to come alive and sort of enlighten us with all of the greenery that we just so look forward to all winter long. Another area that I'll be focusing on this year in enhancing is this area over by our hammock. I haven't really paid much attention to it, and I have a lot of new soil that's sitting in the driveway, so I'm going to try to enhance this area, get some nice hostas planted in there. In the previous years, I had some really nice raspberry canes sitting right there. They have since disappeared, so I'm going to see if I can get some more raspberry canes because they actually thrived in that area. And I loved having the fresh raspberries, so did the birds. But it would be nice to have some more growing in an area that is out of harm's way, because the thorns are never nice to sort of brush up to. One of my favorite spring plants is called a forsythia. Apparently my sister thought the name was for Cynthia. Get it? 2 words. But it's forsythia, so I love the nice bright yellow. You can also bring those branches in early in the spring before they have any growth on them and sort of have them, force them inside, so you'll get that beautiful yellow before the beautiful flowers come out here in the springtime. So right beside the scented hydrangeas in this one little walkway, I have, I believe they're called lungwort. I love them for the little spotted leaves, but I also love the 2 colored flowers on them, the pink and the purple. There used to be 3 here, and we're down to 2, but I'm always happy when they return. You can see here I have a couple of boxes of Hello Fresh, which is a Canadian company that delivers food. My girlfriend gets it, and she actually did some editing on her garden and has brought me over some more daylilies. I have no idea what color they are, and she brought me over some more irises and some hostas and some autumn joy sedums. Yeah, I know, like I need more plants, but I'm always happy to have them, and I'm going to see what I can do to give some love in other parts of the garden. Now here over at the side, you may be wondering if I'm still going to do the vegetables in this area as well as having my little succulent home. Yes, I will. I used my shed to store a lot of these plants, and I'm curious to see if all the different kinds of mint are going to come back. But if they have not, from my local garden company, I have actually ordered a bunch. So you can see how some of these interesting little plants have overwintered quite nicely, just sitting in my shed. But yeah, over here where I have all these black pots where I typically grow my vegetables, we're still going to grow vegetables in this area. And over here on top of my little white table, I will still have my entire succulent arrangements. Perhaps not all of it, because it is up in my dad's greenhouse, and it's on the 2nd story of his house. And he's over 80 years old, and some of them are really heavy. One of the arrangements that I brought up, and he has to be able to carry it down the stairs. So I'm not sure what's going to happen to that particular arrangement. I may have him undo it plant by plant and then remake them, because it also has big, large stones in it. It's one of the arrangements that we had at the wedding last year. This year I'll also try to do something with this little fountain that I painted up last year. It'll be ready to receive some succulents. Here in the front, the early magnolia is in bloom. It has had a lot of damage to it because we've had a lot of really, really cold nights. We've even had snow. And once those flowers start to come out of the little jackets, any kind of unusually cold winter weather just sort of burns the edges. But so we'll stand here from this distance enjoying the smell and how lovely it looks without doing a close-up on each of the flowers. This, I believe, is called a flowering almond. It is beautiful in the springtime. It has these beautiful flowers all over it, and then right after it blooms, for me, it looks like it's dying. So it happens every year. Don't know why, but that's what happens. So I think it's gotten a little bit too big because they don't like it when your trees cover up the hydro boxes for the reading. So I will have to do a massive trimming, and I'm okay with that. I'll do it once it finishes blooming because it's so pretty to look at. My Tough Stuff mountain hydrangea is all coming back. It's got lots of new growth on it, so I'm very excited to see what's going to happen. It is double the size of what it was last spring, as is this cedar. So I will be doing a little trimming up on him because his friend next door did not grow as well, but this will allow me an opportunity to sort of equalize the look, even though it's so gorgeous. I have all of these really lovely, let me just focus on them for you. So they're black leaf elderberries. They do get the berries on them, but right now they are just coming out. So it's also a good opportunity for me to come and trim these back. My little lime hydrangea also have new growth on them, so that's very exciting as well for me because I really want to have this area grow in nicely with the hydrangeas. Still considering doing a third one right in here just to give us a little bit more balance in this area. This peony is coming back strong, and I love how those little hyacinths, how that little cluster is growing every year. I did not plant those, so it's kind of exciting to see them coming up. And over here we have our tree peony that is also sprouting up some beautiful green leaves. I still need to come in here and do like a little bit of trimming from last year's flowers, and anything that, like this whole branch here, it just doesn't have any growth on it, so I'll come and cut that off. But I like the way that the bush has started to actually become a lot taller. Right here, just outside of my garage, I have a bunch of plants that I am hardening off or reconditioning to being outside of the garage. I stored these inside my garage. I do it every year. Some years I win, some years I lose. This year I kind of lost a lot on this side, which is a shame because it's really hard to get any plant material this year. Let me just focus on this. So I take you down so you can see that there's a hit and miss when it comes to some of these hens and chicks, but on this side there are still a ton. Let me just get this over here. A ton of growth, and I will use these. I'll divide them all up so that they have more room to grow and put them over here. Now inside the garage, and I don't have the keys with me, but I would show you, I have like trays of all the succulents that I had at my dad's, and I'm very excited to bring them outside today and have them recondition again. They were in the greenhouse and they were doing spectacular, but then when he asked me to take them home, I had to throw them in my garage so they didn't die with the extra snow we were getting. So we have a mound of mulch, and then we have a mound of dirt. So there's lots of work to be done here in the yard. I'll just show you a little bit more, and then I gotta get going on my chores. When this burning bush was really tiny, I had planted these hyacinths down here, and I love the way that they come up every spring just to show how beautiful they are. Here's some of the flowers on this beautiful early blooming magnolia. What I like about that is that you can look at them right from the street and just sort of check them out. There's more boxwoods that need to be trimmed up. The list is never ending. So let me just take you around the back one more time and we'll say goodbye from there. I love being able to walk through the garden at this time of year. It's just such, it brings so much energy and hope as you walk through. So today's project is working on the deck, cleaning up all of the old flower pots, planting in new plants, picking up all of the plants that are ready at the garden center because it is curbside pickup only and my time to pick them up is at noon. So I will be picking up all of my flowers, all of my vegetables. I'll be clearing off my deck and cleaning it with the power washer so we can bring the rest of the stuff out of the shed. And it will just be an intense work weekend, but that's okay because it's going to be a spectacular weekend. And after months and months and months and months of cold weather, we're excited to be outside and just embracing the beauty of the yard and being grateful for everything that's in front of us. Thanks so much for following along. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you have comments or suggestions on things that we could be covering off this year, please let me know. We're also looking forward to any of your tips that you might have on growing successful vegetable gardens. I've been devouring YouTube videos of other content creators that are very good at it. I'll try to share some of the tips I learned as I go through this. And together we'll grow this little victory garden and see what kind of harvest we get out of it. Take care, everyone. See you next month. And there we have the front yard all cleaned up and ready for spring arrangements. And my husband just did the back deck here. I came and scrubbed it with that broom with a bit of soap, and then he power washed it, and it looks 1,000 times better. Is it perfect? No, but it's good enough to get going. These ones here have all been cleaned up and ready for spring planting. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and follow along. We'd love to have you for this wonderful journey as we adventure into homesteading and all different things that have to do with the beauty of food and nature and how it all comes together to build a beautiful, fulfilling life. Take care, everyone.